Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Zandvoort for round 11 of our 16th season in top tier racing here at Invictus Racing League. We are entering the final third of our 16th season, and we enter it with our two championship contenders level on points at the start of today's proceedings. My name is Webbo, here to take you through today's race, and joining me in the commentary box is the pillar of Invictus Racing League, none other than JP. Good evening, JP.
Good evening, Webbo. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Thank you very much. I hope you're ready for some fun around the Dutch Grand Prix venue here in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, nice tight Nadgery circuit with a pretty long straight afterwards. Overtaking, a bit of a premium round here, so I think we're going to be seeing a lot of attempted overtakes at turn 1 with the DRS.
It's an official Nadgery circuit then, it has been labelled such.
Yeah, I mean it's just very narrow.
Yes.
It's very old. It's very old school, and I love how old school it is. You know, you make one mistake, there's no runoff, there's none of this. You just have grass, and that's it. It's a proper driver circuit, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a couple of minutes before we get the drivers underway. Let's take. I've given a little preview as to where our season lands us, but do us the honour of taking us through the current standings as they exited from round 10, if you will.
Yeah, so Nick Jewston and Ghost level on points, 87 apiece. Obviously, Nick Jewston taking the top spot for the minute because he has more wins. Cameron Searle is in third on 74. Stinos has 65. Speed Queen at 64. Jasper has 58. Jeremy Clarkson 41. Emir Jurakovic on 32, joint with MDJ. And Ryan rounds out the top 10 on 19 points. In terms of the constructors, AlphaTauri lead the way on 106, but the gap has closed. McLaren now only 3 behind them on 103. Alfa Romeo also catching up, they're on 94. Haas 88, and Ferrari rounding out the top 5 on 78 points coming into tonight.
Tremendous stuff. We have guesting with us from Tier 2 tonight. We have Owen, we have Martin, and we also have, remind me, our next one was Lewis, as well as regular season Tier 1 reserve LTB joins us, and ARL as well in the Ferrari tonight. So we've got a good grid for you of I think 15 or even 17 drivers total. We will wait and see how that number sorts itself out. But welcome to those of you who are watching already and have already made a comment here. Greetings to Big Salty, to AJ, who's driving with us, otherwise known as ARL, to Kelvin, who is cheering Speed Queen as usual, has managed to get the first Let's Go Speed Queen mention in tonight, and to Daryl Whiffen as well, who I imagine, JP, wasn't fancying a race with us tonight. Daryl didn't want to make a Tier 1 Whiffen's wall.
No, I mean he did race last night with Tier 2, so he's already done 2 races this week, and combined with doing RP tomorrow, I think four in a row around here could be a little bit too much for him, but we shall see.
How have the previous 2 races gone so far? Have you had a good insight into strategy or problematic weather?
Well, Monday you had weather impacted, and both races have had a fair amount of safety car periods in them, so obviously strategy has been a bit awkward to try and work out. But nonetheless, I mean, if it's no safety car and dry all the way through, 1 stop, pretty standard.
Yeah.
Pretty standard strategy, really.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we've actually got Ricky Maru, who is heading out first. He's beaten ARL to it by virtue of being closer to the pit lane exit. So it will actually be Ricky Maru. If he can stay within track limits on this early lap, out lap, we should be able to follow him along. ARL will be disappointed, but he'll have to choose a poorer performing F1 2022 team to reserve in if he wants to get out of the pits ahead of the likes of Ricky Maru. ARL, though, as he did last time he was with us, JP, heading out on the mediums, and that didn't work out for him as we had a disrupted session but we look like we're going to have dry race at least, thanks to Cameron for leaving us that little update in the driver room.
Yeah, obviously the drivers much preferring the dry conditions to the wet round here, because the circuit very easy to spin the car.
Yes,
so,
Darryl will agree with you on that one. He said he needs a night off to recover from spinning sickness. On these curbs, they are absolutely brutal. We're about to attack a first lap here on board Ricky Maroon. JP, if you'll take us through it.
Yeah, so 4.259 kilometres of Dutch asphalt up to the Tarzan hairpin at turn number 1, braking about 50 metres. Slightly banked inwards, so you can carry good pace, 4th gear on the exit to not spin the wheels. Flick left, then into 2, this fast 5th gear right-hander, drop a couple of gears into the banked corner of turn 3. Bring the throttle in, it should be quite nice, get good momentum through there. 4's flat, 5 is a flat left, 6 flat right, then you'll get to the left-hand side and prepare yourself for this long, fast right-hander of turn 7, 6th gear. Got to pick up that late apex, otherwise you're offline. Into 8 and then down to 9, so 8 just a quick flick, 9 slightly more tight, and that brings you into 10, this long hairpin left, which on the exit you're going to get some DRS, all the way down towards turn 11, a tight 90-degree right-hand corner, which then transitions into this open hairpin left of turn 12, down to 13. This is crucial, this corner. You want to get a good exit out of 13. I'd say Ricky Maroon's just gone a little bit early into the apex there, and then flat to the banked corner of 14. But if you get 13 right, you carry that momentum all the way down into the DRS zone, and it's a 1:11.4 to open up the accounts for qualifying.
Absolutely. ARL following closely behind, although on the medium tyres has logged a 1:13.316. Nick Houston goes on provisional pole immediately with a 1:10.666. Who else have we got? Owen has planted a 1:11.241. We are expecting the top drivers' times to be around the 1:10 early doors. Some speculation we might see a 1:09 tonight from the likes of Nick. He said absolutely not, but other drivers speculating that he will perform to that level. Ghost is currently heading through the Hugenholtz corner, which we can see multiple lines through, although it's a brave driver to take the high road through Hugenholtz if they're not being challenged down the inside. Into the Skivlak corner on board here with Ghost as the driver in front gets out of the way, and we roll through Marlborough and then into Renault. Our corner numbers are a little bit offset. I was reading one number ahead of you, JP, but I'll do my best to follow your lead onto the DRS straight and down towards the Audi S here, finishing the lap off. Interesting that Audi have the S named after them, given that there isn't an S in Audi. But anyway, down towards the Ari, this is the Kumho, and then into the Ari Luyendijk-Vogt corner before heading out. And that final corner, JP, it's not as straightforward as it looks. It can bite.
It can do. Obviously, sometimes the rear does just have a bit of a wobble. We got a spinner, I think. As Ennis has spun, but looks like he's on an in-lap anyway, so no damage done. But yeah, we have seen in previous seasons and races.
Sorry, MDJ just getting crossed up coming out of the Hugenholtz. Obviously, the track not fully gripped up for him yet.
No, at this point it's still a little bit green as everyone's putting in their first lap, so you should see improvements all the way through the session, really. But MDJ, obviously, he didn't race last week, so he's going to be looking to get some points back into his tally for his own Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, he's sticking with this lap, still draining the ERS, so still going for it just to get a good banker lap in. Takes a very greedy amount of entry curb on the way into that Audi S, the turn 11-12 S corner before going into Kumho and spinning the car right around down onto the inside edge and knocking off several sectors of that front wing before trying to get the car gripped back up again and back into the pit. So unfortunately for MDJ, he already said he remembered now why he didn't register as racing here tonight, because he hates this track. and he's not going to be feeling any better about it right now. Jeremy Clarkson, though, about to start a flyer, I think. Speed Queen waiting. Now that we've got dry conditions, Speed Queen waiting for everybody to clean the track up for her, I think. Get rid of all that sand.
Yeah, I mean, what we have seen in other tiers as well is actually drivers only doing 2 timed runs to save a set of soft compound tyres for the race itself. And obviously with the high percentage chances of a safety car in this race, it wouldn't surprise you if there's a few people that decide to go that route and have a fresh set of softs in play for the race. So that's potentially a strategical call there.
That's a good option, and also presumably something that the ARL will be hoping to do as well. He's logged a time, he's 13th fastest at the moment, but he's medium tyre running, so if he gets 2 more runs in on fresh sets of softs, and he has selected the aggressive option for the weekend, as it were, he will, of course, have that spare set too. Clarkson registers a purple middle sector, but only for him because it's his first lap. Still seems to be chasing the grip in the car, JP. It still seems like with 10 minutes to go, that track's still not ready.
It's generally a slippy circuit anyway, especially because if you think about it, it's only really, what, the 2nd or 3rd year that this tarmac's been laid on the circuit.
Right.
They've done a complete resurfacing in order to get it up to FIA grade 1 specification. I mean, the Hugenholtz corner, that used to be flat, that didn't used to be banked. So they went round and basically revamped the whole circuit, gave it a new layer of tarmac, and I think that's still just making it that little bit slippy at the moment for the drivers.
Yeah, definitely. Nick Houston still hasn't got the car under control, still waiting for that track evolution to come. Rear end looking very lively as he rounds the Ari Luyendijk corner, and he's back into the pits. In fact, he's so unhappy with that lap, it's not even worth running. Still placed 2nd place by 0.02 of a second to Jasper, who has got the provisional pole of 1:10.646. We're expecting faster times. The Speed Queen now looks to set her very first lap. Has successfully navigated the Hugenholtz corner and is heading now through Hunter wrong slot maker and into Shivlak now, that turn 7 corner, before heading into Marlborough and then into Renault, treated almost as one corner, and you'll see the same kind of effect then through the Vodafone hairpin. Not really an overtaking opportunity unless you've really messed up. Your rival in front has really messed up the Renault corner. Down to Audi S, another purple sector, but again, just for her. With 9 minutes to go in the session, we should have plenty of action still to come in this qualifying. Jasper still holds on to that fastest time, and the runners and riders are coming out for their next laps already. Speed Queen, though, first time lap, successfully navigates the final corner and crosses over the line in a 1:11.231. Middle of the road, middle of the order, P8 in the Alpine.
Yeah, it goes 0.3 up after sector 2 coming to the line. Looking like a good lap, and it is a good lap of 1:10.4 for Ghost, the defending champion. That's a little bit of a marker being put down as Mert just behind puts in a 1:10.5.
Very interesting to see Ghost suddenly pop up in the order. Still expecting a little bit of additional time from both himself and Cameron Searle. Quite a bit of a climb still to come, we expect there from Nick Houston. But if things go wrong now for the remaining riders, this could be a bit of a hark back to season 15 for Ghost, who sits on top of the pile. Ryan de Pevine is currently up on his time as well. He's currently 10th, but sliding around the Renault corner he goes, unfortunately, at the approach to Renault and the exit out of Marlborough, and he has spun away from that one. We're going to see this frequently as the drivers start to push super hard as Nick Houston starts his next one, JP.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at some drivers. Ennis is just coming, in fact 0.3 up is Yara Ennis, so he's going to be projected about a 1:11.5. So moving ahead of ARL and 12th. He's just going to the last couple of corners now.
Yep, we got him.
Through the banked corner at turn 14. And it was a 1:11.3. So that's an 11th place for Ennis, which is not a horrible starting place on the circuit.
A bit of over-rotation from Nick after the first sector. He's slightly over his time at the moment in the first sector. It's well within the possibility to get underneath that time, and he does so by a quarter of a second into the Audi S, wrestling the car back under control. Very, very low grip still this track as we head on into the final two turns. Nick Houston then could end up right on the provisional pole kind of time area. He sprints for the line in the middle of the road and he goes into that provisional pole. Big gain in that final sector, over a tenth to get a 1:10.285. Goes second, Merck third, and Jasper demoted to fourth, where though is frequent challenger for that pole position, Cameron Searle, currently fifth and in the pits waiting for his final run.
And Jasper, unfortunately, has gone round at the tyres and hairpin on his latest attempt.
Well, he'll be relieved at least he can go round and save the battery for another run if he's fueled up. Jeremy Clarkson to the line, gets one place and he's tantalisingly close to fifth. He's only sixth place though at 1:10.762 in the Aston Martin. Who's next?
Just having a little look through the grid. Obviously, most people in the pits at the moment. IRL's just going around to the line, but I'm not sure if he's on a lap or not. I'm going to say no, because he's still got 100% ERS.
And into the pits as well for IRL, so not going round for another one. Didn't want to, or wasn't fueled for another run, so he's got it all to do. Reshka currently our slowest driver on a 1:11.864. A very close grid though. No large gaps between the drivers at this stage. Let's see if Jasper, will he go round to start another lap? It's not the best way to finish a lap though on board Jasper. I've got a huge lag there on his, riding on board with him, and into the pits he comes. Hopefully, for his sake, he'll get time for another run. Once this yellow flag is cleared, we'll see if he has a problem. Gam88 joins us to say, come on Speed Queen, so our second Speed Queen fan of course. Kelvin predicting a 109.6. That has been absolutely ruled out by Nick Houston, who has said a 110.1 or a 110 flat is his absolute maximum. We shall obviously wait and see. It could be a little bit of gamesmanship though, JP, as the drivers try to kid each other that they can't possibly do the superhuman kind of laps that are being predicted.
Yeah, Eric Marie just starting his latest attempt. Speed Queen on one now. Owen, Tier 2 driver now. He's getting used to a new wheel, is Owen, just a bit of background. And yesterday he had a little bit of a mechanical failure with his wheel in which it disconnected for him. So I think he's using this as a bit of a test session and hoping that the wheel stays connected this time to his car. Meanwhile, Speed Queen up currently, she's going down to sector 2 and up by 0.3 at the moment.
Yeah, so on the cusp of getting into the 110s. Should be very much alone if she just dips into the 110s. Currently it's the top 6 and then everybody else with the fastest time. Speed Queen then through the final 2 turns out of Ari Luyendijk and waiting then for the start finish line to come towards her. P7 it is a 1:10.9. That might be nearing her maximum, but we know she has the capability to throw some strategic magic out there, some great tyre usage, and also generally moves forward. Here goes Ricky Maru to begin his next lap then into Tarzan, JP.
No, that needs to end because he's got very little ERS left.
So he has.
So that's the end of his lap. What else we got? So I think Owen is abandoned his lap.
Have we got MDJ possibly? Let's see after his as he rounds the first sector time beam. Yeah, he's up by a 10.5 from 14th position. Outlap from Ghost. We'll keep an eye on the front runners as they come to 2:20 to go before the checkered flag. Of course, you must have started your final attempt before that checkered flag falls. As MDJ then around tricky hairpin and about to finish out that second sector. MDJ currently 14th. Can he pick up the pace? 4 tenths to the good now. So closing in on a potential 10th place or thereabouts. That will be a big jump for him. Let's see if he can get the car further forward than he's managed so far on a track he dislikes so much. Comes out of the final corner. Everything done now, foot to the floor, and it's a jump up to P9. I think he'll be pretty happy with a 6/10th gain there, JP. Great performance from NDJ.
Yeah, it's a nice game round here. There's no doubt about that. I'm not quite sure what Ricky Maru is doing. I think he's going to go for another recharge lap. 1 minute 25. He's got just about enough time to go back on another recharge lap to go again. Rushka is starting a lap at the moment. We've got LTB RSD. He's just going into the penultimate corner. I don't know if Ryan in front is what's on the right.
Oh, sorry, we're just riding on board with Ghost, who is 24 thousandths up at the moment. Put a massive kick of oversteer through the corner. I'm not sure he would have actually lost a great deal. We'll wait and see as he managed to round a little bit of slow-moving traffic. We'll go towards the end of the second sector, see if he's managed to rescue that one. No, he did end up losing over 1/10 of a second in that big snap. It's all to do in this final one. He's currently second. He'd love to start on that front row as he's been chasing the pace of late in the championship, but a big spin for Ghost. Knocks the rear right onto the barrier as he did a full 180. Needs to get out of everybody's way, but that is the end of that run. So Nick Jewston presumably is going to have a run here, a parade run towards a potential pole position. He's 33 thousandths of a second faster as Merck starts his next lap. He's the next one, JP, vying for that front row.
Yeah, I'm just on board with Ennis at the moment. He's a 10th up so far on his current fastest lap. We'll put him up one place at the moment. Using the final couple of corners.
The checkered flag has now fallen, so with Merck up nearly by a 10th, that is on target to get onto that front row. Of course, Ghost will not defend this potential front row challenge. Jasper also within range, but Jeremy Clarkson nips into P2 on a 1:10.427 as Nick Houston goes faster, still a 1:10.263. We're not quite in that 1:10.1 mark that was predicted earlier on. Certainly not in the 109s, but Merck then has maintained a reasonable gain, but he's just slipped out of range of leapfrogging over Ghost. I don't know, I think both sides of the grid have an opportunity, JP, into the first corner. You can ride too wide through that Tarzan corner as Merck goes into cross the line. He's in third, Deposis goes down to fourth, and Cameron Searles steals pole at the absolute death of the session of 1:10.261. How many thousandths? Just 2 thousandths faster than Nick Jewston.
Yeah, Cameron sort of coming up clutch there. Ricky Maru, the last man to cross the line. It's not a good time though, and he'll remain in ninth. Yeah, coming in clutch there for Cameron Searle, 2 thousandths of a second. I mean, Nick Jewston, he's been leading this session all session long.
Absolutely.
And he's definitely going to feel that's been stolen from him right at the death.
Yeah, but Cameron Searle timed his run to absolute perfection, was the penultimate driver to cross that finish line, so made it fantastically. I think he shocked himself by the look of his comment in the driver's room, which I can't repeat. But Nick is also absolutely gutted. I think can't believe his eyes as Cameron Searle steals that one right at the death. Brilliant stuff. JP, take us through the rest of the grid.
So Cameron Searle obviously taking pole position at the death. Alongside him on row 1 is Nick Jewston. Row 2, Jeremy Clarkson and Mert. Row 3, Ghost and Jasper. Row 4 is Ryan and Speed Queen. Row 5, Ricky Maru, MDJ. Row 6, LTB, Lewis. Row 7, ARL and Owen. Row 8, Ennis and Martin. Rushka rounding out on his own on row number 9. And I'm looking at this and I'm seeing 8, 9, so the top 8, all different teams.
Yeah, brilliant mix-up here. I believe we have seeded No, we don't. We don't do seeded teammates, do we? So they are free to choose their own teammates. It's just the way it's worked out once we get those allocations, and it's interesting to see the reserves and the guests from Tier 2 all lumped together. Reshka obviously not managing to maximise his qualifying performance, but he'll be looking to make up for that in the race. Plenty of opportunity though, JP, if you can keep it on the black stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not the easiest place to overtake on, but mistakes do happen. And like we said before, it is an old school circuit in terms of the issues you have with no runoffs. So, yeah, just sticking with someone and applying pressure to force them into a mistake sometimes is the best way around here to try and get some moves done and move up the order. It just depends what tyre you fancy starting on.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to hear all of our viewers live predictions for the podium. Choose 3 drivers only and let us know who you think it's going to be. Ivan's well impressed with how quick Tier 1 is this season. I have to say we're all in agreement of that. Reshka's obviously feeling pretty wary of the crowd in front of him heading through turns 2, 3, 4. I'd probably add turn 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in the first lap to be wary as well, but not to forget the final corner as well, as they end up in low grip conditions. We look to have a dry race, so a straight fight here. We'll see whether we get any safety cars. You can also predict how many safety cars or what lap the first safety car will be, if you so wish. But looking forward to seeing what our Tier 1 and reserve drivers can do tonight. What news of the championship? Ghost versus Nick Houston on equal points, on 87 points at the head of the championship. But Cameron Searle laying down a bit of a marker there in qualifying to say, I'm back, boys, and let's make it a 3-way battle in the final 5 races of the season. Got an interesting person join the lobby there randomly. Must be a friend of Reshka's, our host, potentially, but hopefully they won't interrupt proceedings. And there we go, has managed to leave the session as well. We'll get the nod shortly, but JP, what are you expecting in terms of tyre wear, if you can say so? I think you can by now in the week.
Yeah, so, I mean, in reality, it depends when you want to pit. Obviously, you're looking at maximum wear percentages, you're looking at 60 to 70%. Obviously, 70% kind of where your punctures start to play a factor and a potential. The hards will go like a maximum of 24 to 28 laps. Obviously, you probably want to pit on around lap 19 to 21. Because obviously by that point they do start to die off. The mediums, you're looking at 17 to 20 as a maximum, but you're probably more like looking at about 15 to 17 to get them off. And obviously the softs will do 12 laps, but they're probably only really good for 8.
Fantastic stuff. Obviously all of our drivers will be battling for their position in the championship, but our focus in these final 5 will be, of course, on the battle for the championship title overall. Ghost is defending, but has had an absolute opposite season so far. Let's see what the boys can do, and girl, of course, and any non-binary members of our driving cohort. Let's see what our drivers can do as the lights go on. Will be underway very shortly, and it's lights out and go away from the start. A decent start, I think, there from Cameron and from Nick, fairly even, but getting right into the mix is Jeremy Clarkson down the inside. I said you could go 2 wide. They're trying it 3 wide. We've got a mini spin from a Haas on the inside, and it looks like Nick Houston has managed to hold on, but Jeremy Clarkson looking very racy indeed, breaks very late into Hugenholz and takes the lead as we've got a Red Bull fighting. It's Merckx having pipped Cameron Searle, who's been deposed down to 4th position away from the start, and it is fairly clean here from the drivers. It looks like it was Jasper who had an issue on the inside of Tarzan as they all get line astern now and prepared for a very tricky section of the racetrack, JP.
Yeah, it was Jasper that ended up going around, and it just looked like one of those first corner bunchings. He just clipped the inside of another car, and unfortunately F1 physics mean he goes round, but otherwise a very nice clean getaway from everyone. And this is the important part of the race where you have to decide when to go for stuff and be a bit sensible. We've got a bit of a mix on the tyres. Owen's decided to go on the soft compound, the only one to do so. Otherwise, it's very much looks like a 50-50 mix on hards and mediums. Jeremy Clarkson on those mediums and obviously benefiting because the delta is fairly sizable around here with the traction zones.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Owen, it's done him some good. He's moved up 4 positions already. Speed Queen has moved down to 9th and will be trying to run those hard tyres towards the soft window. But of course, anyone starting on hards will have the most flexible strategy with regard to the potential for safety cars. They are all separated by less than a second, as MDJ is very close to behind Owen here for 10th position. Now he's starting to get some temperature in those hard tyres, but Jeremy Clarkson leads them into lap 2 ahead of Nick Houston, Merckx, Cameron Searle, Ryan Ghost, Lewis, LTB, Speed Queen and Owen, your top 10. Jasper a little way off the back of the tail, but he's managing to stay here just under 1/10 of a second. Reshka moved up 2 places, and we've got Martin battling here now currently with MDJ, whose momentum has shifted, trying to go around the outside on the entry into the Audi S. It's very difficult to make that move stick, and has to cede Martin to sit behind MDJ as they go into the final 2 corners once again, and we'll go up towards the front of the grid as Cameron Searle, a third of a second here away from Merckx, away from that podium. He'll be absolutely gutted. DRS has now been enabled for the next trip down towards that Audi S, but it will be a very unusual move to make that one stick on that first DRS lap. But the Alpines together as well in 9th and 10th, trying to play nice here, as Owen needs to do a bit of a supporting role here for Speed Queen, who is, of course, the regular season rider.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how the points are going to be distributed. I get the feeling that those from Tier 2 will probably be omitted from the points.
Yep.
So, because obviously we're quite late in the season now, we don't want any Tier 2 drivers coming in and kind of stealing points away when it's quite crucial.
I don't imagine that the Tier 1 drivers will shift upwards. I think they'll get the points they score, the positions they finish.
Not quite sure. I mean, if you were to omit the Tier 2, obviously those in Tier 1 would jump up, which I think would be kind of a fair thing, but we're not quite sure on what happens with that. But either way, I know for a fact none of the T2 drivers will want to. As we've got an overtake, have we, up into Tarzan,
yep. Cameron
and Merckx.
But they're going side by side. They're going to try this one. It's brilliant racing room left by both of them as Merckx tries the long sweep round the outside, and the way into Hugenholtz becomes the inside, and expertly defended there, JP.
Yeah, very nicely done by the Red Bull. And obviously Cameron's got a little bit of work to do after that start, but he's playing a very safe, sensible game here, which is just sitting behind. Obviously make the move if it's on, but points at the moment are massive. He just needs to find that way back up to Nick.
Totally, but Jeremy out in front is really making hay while he's got a tyre advantage, and stretching away here from Nick Houston, already out of that DRS zone by a clear half second, and able to put the gap on. And Cameron will be focusing, I think, on Nick ahead, and he hasn't got too far ahead at the moment, so he doesn't need to get too panicky with passing Merckx. It looks like he might have that opportunity, but Merckx himself will now have the DRS, so he's going to have to do this purely on slipstream and ERS deployment. That shapes to the inside, is going to try the outside this time, and Merckx getting a little bit out of shape, a little bit hampered on the way into Tarzan thanks to the positioning of Nick in front, who's taking his own racing line. But Cameron, no move this time as he tries to get that Alpha Tauri around Hugenholtz. It's a slightly unusual line.
Yeah, so Hugenholtz, you can have various lines. You can be tight in, wide out, wide in, tight out, or you can just take the the long high line or the middle line effectively. There's so many lines on it because it's banked, but they all do the same job. They're all the same pace, and Cameron is just, he's there, but he's just not quite there at the moment. So obviously he looks very quick through the corners, but with Merckx having DRS as well, obviously it's all about ERS and traction out of the penultimate corner down towards Tarzan.
It is, absolutely. Well, Ivan fancies moves going on into the Audi S. I notice Ivan isn't racing with us tonight to try his hand at some Tier 1 passes into the Audi S. I didn't fancy that one, but Ivan certainly thinks it's a strong chance using the DRS. Cameron again then, he's now stuck a little bit here, waiting for Merck potentially to shape for a move against Nick Houston, and Cameron will be hoping to mop up any spills that might take place. Ghost has been struggling to hold on to the back of Ryan with the difference in tyre. Ryan a little bit on his own here, isn't catching the three here battling for second, third and fourth. Nick, Merck and Cameron, but Ghost not able to live quite with the pace of Ryan, who has the medium tyres at this stage. But Ghost will be looking to build that speed, used some ERS maybe later in the race. He often doesn't at the start, but a nice three-way battle here for second, and they can still see Jeremy Clarkson in front. JP, he's not gapping them at too aggressive a speed. Lewis has had a problem and is dropping down, coming on out of Renault corner, and has dropped to the tail of the field.
Yeah, and obviously that ARL did get past Ricky Maru at Tarzan for 12th place, which is interesting because ARL on those hard tyres, Ricky Maru on the mediums. Right. So that's good pace from the Ferrari of ARL there. But everyone at the moment, I say that as Cameron side by side with Merck down towards Tarzan. He's got the inside this time, but Merck will run it round the outside, try and get the traction, but this time Cameron gets the move done, and now he can set his sights on the Alfa Romeo ahead of him, who's leading or tied leader in the championship.
Yeah, I joined him slightly too late to see whether Merck made a mistake coming through the final two corners. Cameron was absolutely underneath the gearbox before they got there, and was able to get a great exit out of the final corner, at very least comparative to the Red Bull in front of him. But that time didn't try to go 50-50 into Tarzan. He braked that a little bit later than he did the lap before, and it worked out well for him. He didn't understeer through the corner, and he's got himself ahead. The three cars here all on the same tyre, so a nice fair battle between them. It's 7 laps deep into a 36 lap race. Clarkson leads from Nick, from Cameron, Merck, Ryan and Ghost down into 6th at this current time. LTB in 7th, Speed Queen in 8th and Owen 9th, with MDJ at the rear of the top 10.
Yeah, obviously we're starting to get into that phase because we've not had an early safety car like we have in previous races. Everyone just a little bit specific, as we've got an Owen in the pits on lap 7 laps he's done on that soft top tyre, so he's going on to the hards. So what's that going to be? 28 laps. I mean, that is 28, 29 laps. That's very much the upper limit in my opinion before you're hitting puncture territory. So it wouldn't surprise me if Owen's on a bit of a out of sync 2-stop strategy. Although we'll have to wait and see how. Would it still be
a stretch, even if he's lower on fuel, using the hards in the second stint, as it were?
Yeah, because the problem is he's only dumped about 7 laps of fuel in that car. It's still not going to be very light, so it might be slightly nicer towards the end. But generally speaking, on this game with the hard compound, it tends to be a pretty flat rate of wear, because obviously being the hardest compound.
So a charge lap there for Cameron as he heads on into the final 2 corners. He's not quite living with Nick, who's a lot quicker through that final corner than perhaps Merck was before. However, Cameron will have DRS profit that he didn't have before on the previous overtake attempt. Gets a little bit closer. We have a yellow flag temporarily there. That's an Alpine, is it?
LTB in the Mercedes.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think he's probably just caught the curve a bit like Ghost did in qualifying, and sent him around just on the entrance to the back corner.
Can't quite see if his car is intact yet. I've got a very helpful helicopter shot. It looks okay.
It looks okay. I don't think he's hit anything, but it's obviously when you spin there, it's quite difficult to get the car turned back around.
Absolutely. You're fighting gravity as well as the difficulty with overheated tyres and the oncoming traffic. If you retire, we've got a Red Bull very slow as well. That's Ennis, who's about to be overtaken by LTB. So mistakes happening every lap or half lap or so as the drivers are trying to explore the limits. It is 8 laps into Clarkson's lead medium strategy so far. We expect him to be able to get to around just under half distance, maybe lap 17, 18. He might even be able to stretch it a little bit, but there'd be little point running the tyres too close to the edge, as Cameron gains on the straight, but really isn't able to close in the back of Nick, JP, towards the end of the lap where it's crucial.
No, I mean, at the moment, as ARL gets past Martin down straight into Tarzan with DRS, Cameron at the moment, at this phase of the race, I think he's just got to think of just sticking with Nick. That's got to be his prime objective here. Stick with Nick and then try and build. Try and build on that, because ultimately, if you stick with the driver in front of you, you're immediately applying pressure because you're not letting him escape. So that's got to be the key here for Cameron. It's just keep applying pressure to Nick and hope that some form of crack in his armour appears.
Because if we manage to run without... there's a retirement from Ennis who's gone into the pits, thankfully. Just thinking about if we do manage to run this race without a safety car, Nick and Cameron very much in the pound seats here, as well as Merckx for the potential podium. Clarkson will be outfoxed a little bit, having to sit behind the traffic, pit earlier than them, and be on a worse tyre to the end of the race. But who knows? He hasn't managed to quite pull the gap that he's going to need to defend that lead, has he?
No. He's just not been able to quite pull away as he wanted. It does show you the pace of Nick and Cameron and Merck to a degree behind as Ricky Maru comes in the pits. Ooh. Slightly early on those medium tyres, so I wonder if he's in for a new win. Let's have a quick look.
We had some interlock wheels there between Jasper and Martin battling for 10th place, as Reshka has moved up to 12th thanks to those pit stops. You say we've got some repairs underway for the Haas.
Yeah, Ricky Maru new front wing, which is why he's in early, and that's not going to be ideal. He can probably make it to the end on those tyres. They're not going to be very happy at the end, but he will be able to get to the end.
Okay, well, Ivan says he's set us a challenge to sit on board one driver and talk through every gear change, break point and mistakes, but I kind of do that in qualifying. That's kind of why we do that at the start of qualifying before it all gets too tasty and difficult. If the race quietens down later, maybe we will, as moving forward is Jasper against Martin in the middle of the circuit here, well, certainly into the third sector, managed to complete the move there, coming on out of the Audi S. Obviously Martin must have suffered some sort of issue as Cameron closes on the way through Hugenholtz and is tucked up behind the Ferrari of the Alfa Romeo of Nick, and through they go then through the roller coaster section of the racetrack at the end of sector 1.
Yeah, Reshka spun it out of the penultimate corner there, and not a nice move that from Jasper. Obviously Martin on the medium tyres, and I think was gradually starting to reach that crossover period between the hards and the mediums. Excellent. We've got a spinner of MDJ. That is down at turn 9.
Oh, that's a real shame, but hardly a surprise from his mindset going into the race, which was, I hate this place, I hate it. It's rare to see a driver sort of outperform a negative self-talk before the race. I have seen a few exceptions, but generally speaking, if you go in with that kind of attitude, JP, you're likely to come out of it fairly reassured of your initial opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an old saying, isn't it? If you think you can or you think you can, you're right.
Yes.
It was about the size of that one. Obviously, MDJ, again, he's in 12th at the moment as he follows close to Lewis, who goes into the pits. Jeremy Clarkson has lost communication with that car.
That is the curse of the leader following last week's race where that struck our leader, and Cameron, who kept having to dip in and out of the session. I didn't actually remember to check what points or whether he was allocated any points if he was actually in his seat at the end. But the lead of the race has been ceded by Clarkson's Ghost, and Nick Houston and Cameron Searle have got ahead into first and second position. Cameron now will eye a challenge here for the lead before the pit stops, potentially, as he's finally got himself right within range. Can he exit through those final two corners well enough? It seems like Nick has got the ERS deployment at the end of the lap sorted perfectly, but he's dipping down under 10%. You can see the red light flashing behind Nick Houston's car, and Cameron has got no closer, or not close enough. So I wonder, is Cameron also struggling on telemetry? I can categorically answer that with no. He is significantly higher on the telemetry count than Nick Houston on the ERS charge state. So I don't know if he's listening or Nick's listening. Nick will be telling me to shut up, and Cameron will be saying more of that, please. But at lap 14, Nick, Cameron and Mert are your podium sitters.
Yeah, as the Cameron just tracking that Alfa Romeo right now. Ghost only half a second behind Ryan, so that crossover period definitely in full effect now. Jasper half a second behind ARL. We've got a few people just closing in. So we're looking at a few battles. That is, obviously, if everyone stays out for the next couple of laps. So
but it's too early for the hard tyre window to change onto the mediums, right? It's still at least 2 laps away from that.
This is about as early as you want it to be.
Yeah.
22 laps you can definitely do on the hard tyres. Like I say, they're not going to be pretty, but you can do it. And at the moment, it doesn't look like there's much of a chance of a safety car right now, where everyone's very spread out at the moment. There's obviously no real contact going to be happening. So yeah, for Ryan, he definitely wants to get this to lap 16, lap 17 area.
Absolutely, we'll see what they can do going through, but clearly the medium runners are losing time at this stage, and you definitely prefer to be in a hard tyre running car. Now, what does Cameron do with regard to considering stopping before Nick Houston? Obviously he needs every lap of tyre wear he can get out of the medium tyre in his second stint, JP, but how early do you think he could be thinking of trying to trigger the first pit stops?
Very much depends on the tyre wear and how you have that feeling in the car, but it will be in the next lap or so, I think. I think it will be Jeremy and Ryan probably the ones to trigger it, just purely because they're going to want to try and get some form of advantage. So I think LTB is just pitted for hard tyres at the back. Ryan stays out, so yeah, any time from now expect the likes of Ryan and Jeremy in, but it wouldn't surprise me if they try to extend this stint, being that the medium's obviously the bit more favourable tyre for pace.
Jasper going for a move then against the Ferrari in front of him, ARL. ARL dived to the inside to defend, but left a gap, and the Haas went for it, but lost the car on the middle of Tarzan, had to completely back out of the throttle, and ARL holds on for another run. That was a brilliant interchange between the two drivers, but Jasper just couldn't hold the power down early enough in the Tarzan corner, JP.
Yeah, good defence from ARL. Just he pinched Jasper on the apex. But it was a fair pinch, and obviously it just made Jasper that little bit skittish on the way out.
So unfamiliar road he was on the inside on the exit of Tarzan, and there's definitely less grip on that inside exit. Here comes Cameron once again.
Where is he going to go? Yeah, he's just still not quite close enough. Yeah, it's quite weird, the Tarzan hairpin. You can make moves either side. Obviously, Jerry Clarkson's in, so the first front runners onto the hard tyres. No surprise on that one.
Oh dear, problem for Ryan, who has had that fairly embarrassing 90-degree spin to the inside of a bank corner. It looks horribly slow as Lewis has caused a safety car. Lewis on the exit of the Renault corner has caused that safety car just after one or two drivers have pitted. Reschke is in the pits right now and will get the benefit of a slightly cheap safety car pit stop duration. But Lewis is on the exit of the corner. His car has just been cleared by the invisible marshals or crane, but presumably the window is now open for everybody. It's just at that halfway point, JP.
It is. I would expect pretty much everyone in on this, especially because with the medium tyres, obviously we're going to get possibly 2-3 laps of safety car period.
Yep.
So they're not going to be wearing. A bit of a weird one that for Lewis. It looks like potentially he's clipped the inside curb at turn 9, and it's just made the car get loose, and as he's gone to catch the car, as it's gone to slide, it's just gripped up and snapped on him, which has unfortunately sent him into that barrier on the outside.
So the front three definitely into the pits, and we are expecting everybody in. I think it'd be a very brave or foolish driver to reject the pit lane offer now at this perfectly timed safety car for anyone nearing the edge of their medium stints. Everybody absolutely into the pits, and I wonder, whether some of the runners might come in for their second stop if they're not going to be at risk of losing a further place. Just the order getting a little bit swapped around, of course, as the drivers find their pit box relative to their rivals. Nick Houston has managed to get on in, and any hopes that Cameron had of triggering, of managing to pull the grenade pin and go for the pit stop ahead of Nick Houston has of course been neutralised, as has our race for the time being. Reshka has come in. Owen, Ricky Maru and LTB have already made a pit stop and will try and run to the end of this race, but it should be as they were on the way out, unless there happened to be any double stacking. And actually you pointed it out at the start of our coverage tonight, JP, but none of our teammates are anywhere near each other as far as I can tell, so I don't think there would have been any double stacking. There may have been that in that problem though, where you pit so far away or so far earlier than your nearest rival that you end up waiting for all the other races to come by you before you're released safely from your pit box.
Yeah. And obviously the other thing as well is, I can't remember exactly how the settings are for the league, but if they're set in a particular way, obviously sometimes the double stack can actually help your teammate out a little bit because you block someone in.
Yes.
So can't quite remember how the settings work on it, but that's that. If they work like that, sometimes you can deliberately double stack because you know it's going to cause issues for whoever's in the pit box behind you. Interesting, Martin. I think this is quite a clever strategy here from Martin.
He's gone back in for a second stop, has he?
He's gone back in he's done one lap under the safety car on the hards, and he's come back in to get a second set of soft tyres. Now, I think that's really smart. Yes, he's lost out on a bit of track position here, but he would have been losing out on that track position quite probably because everyone else around him would have been on mediums. He would have been on the hard tyres. So,
is that something that Ryan ought to have considered, or do you think being up into 5th place, he's got more to lose, and therefore he might just try and be strong towards the end of his stint?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan, obviously Martin is a tier 2 driver. He's not here for necessarily the points. He's not here for a good position in the championship. He's purely here because he wants to race. Ryan, on the other hand, obviously he has got a championship to think about, and I think Ryan is possibly quick enough to maybe stave off Speed Queen and ARL behind. I think he does have that sort of pace where he might be able to defend that 5th place.
Well, Speed Queen has moved forward up 2 places from her start position. She's in 6th now, but ARL, the absolute star so far of our starting to current positions, he's moved up 6 places. We've seen some good overtakes, and clearly the strategy worked out very well for him. Clarkson down 6 after losing connection to the car. We will go racing again. Martin has gained 5. Everybody else roughly where they started, although Reshka's gained 3. Despite the fact that maybe 2 drivers have crashed out. So we're back underway very shortly. Will Ghost get himself onto that sneaky podium he keeps getting? Will Speed Queen manage to get into the top 5? how about our podium at the end? We are under green flag racing, and Ryan is right level with the McLaren in front of Ghost, has already got past him down into Tarzan. So a nice restart from Ryan, who manages to hold on to that position, but Jeremy Clarkson has retired from the session in Tarzan, clearly has suffered some form of damage as Ricky Maru gets past Martin, who is struggling to bring those very fresh mediums up to temperature quite as fast as the other drivers at the moment. Clarkson leaving the session after that retirement. Thankfully it was too early to trigger a further safety car, but Ghost right hot on the heels of that Mercedes still.
Yeah, Nick Houston held that restart for a long time. All fair game because he didn't change his speed dramatically. But obviously because he waited and waited, Ryan seized the opportunity to catch Ghost napping a little bit on that restart, and Ghost now immediately looking to get past the Mercedes, but this isn't going to be an easy overtake.
He was selling the move into the Audi S, but Ryan was not biting at that one at all.
No, it looks like for Jeremy he's gone into the back of someone, lost his front wing and potentially retired on circuit.
That's a real shame for him. Here comes Ghost, they're deploying all of that electrical energy. I feel that Ryan is doing the same as Ghost goes for an absolute lunge down the inside, gets the car stopped at the apex, and an expert move. Ryan though kept caught out a little bit napping, he couldn't brake as hard. The only driver on those hard tyres at this stage.
Yeah, so Ryan obviously making that work. Meanwhile Owen gets past his Tier 2 rival of Martin, which is good, up into the top 10 for the Alpine. It's been a better race so far this for Martin. We know Owen's quick. I believe he is also running no traction control, no ABS as well, so he is effectively running on Tier 1 settings as well. Yesterday was his first race with those settings as well, and he was looking quick, so it's good to see the pace from Owen. Here in the Tier 1 race.
Absolutely, I love it. I love to see drivers turn down their assists or turn off their assists and suddenly find that actually what they had feared is nowhere near as difficult as perhaps they thought. Cameron Surley's quarter of a second, 0.2 of a second, fastest lap at the moment behind Nick Houston. Can't quite close the gap, but he's very, very close, and we're going to have a barnstormer to finish here as Ghost is picking up the pace and catching up with Merck now that he's on they're all on the medium tyres for the end of the race. They'll be enjoying the extra grip and the lighter cars in this second stint. It's 22 laps into a 36 lap race, and it's Nick Houston from Cameron Searle vying for the lead of this one.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's no real big surprise that you've got these two at the top of the field. I mean, Merck's doing a really good job here, staying within DRS range of Cameron. It could bring him back into play later on in this stint, especially when Nick and Cameron start scrapping. Merck's going to get the benefit of closing that gap. We've got a yellow flag, that's LTB at the exit of turn 9. Luckily, no damage by the looks of it, but just a loss of positions.
Absolutely, I think we've had a yellow flag just about every lap of the race so far, and only one safety car. Jasper has retired from the session in the pits, so we lose our fourth driver tonight. Down to 13 we are, as Cameron is now hitting that invisible wall around the 4/10 mark and cannot get within range. Who else though might have a go? ARL is 4/10 away. Everyone is more than 3/10 away, which is just about the magic number coming out of Arie Luyendyk, the final corner on the racetrack. If you're 3/10, you might be able to do it with DRS profit, but if you're just outside of that, it's incredibly difficult, and we are heading on then towards, we've got 13 laps plus this one left to go. And it's still, I think, anyone's in the top 4.
Yeah, Ghost he's just falling off the tail, and the problem is without that DRS, he's gonna just fall behind on every DRS zone here.
Yeah.
So I think Ghost really is looking to maybe solidify that 4th place and take advantage of any of the others up front. Makes a big enough mistake to give him that opportunity, but Cameron still on the back of Nick. He just needs to get a good run out of 13 here to get him the run. I don't think he's got it even now. Not
back out to that 4/10 of a second issue. We'll be staring at the back of this Alfa Romeo. He's got a good run though, some good overspeed here as perhaps Nick preserving a little bit of ERS that time. He had a little bit of a gap to play with, but Cameron will be hoping to try and see that red light flashing behind him. I think until that point, he might struggle to make that overtake. However, MDJ and ARL are battling and are side by side going into ARL giving up the place, and a second one here. Ricky Maru sneaks it round the long way round the top of Hugenholtz and moves on past ARL. So unfortunately, ARL moving down 2 places on that first sector of lap 24. Speed Queen still in 6th, Ryan in 5th, Ghost up into 4th position now, but having stalled around roughly at that speed, struggling to stay on board with the pace of the others, but so is ARL. Yeah.
ARL under threat from Owen. I thought Owen was about to go round the outside of the Ferrari then at turn 10, and I've made an overtake around the outside of there this week, and I've seen others do it. It's a definite viable option, but Owen just couldn't quite get it done. But ARL, it's almost like he struggled with tyre warm-up here.
Right.
Almost like he's a bit too kind on the tyres to begin with, and they're still just coming into temperature, because it just looks like he's struggling in parts where you need the grip and the heat of the tyre.
Yeah, a really rough lap 24 for ARL. Hopefully he'll be able to get his pace switched back on again. But we are riding on board, watching MDJ hound the back of Speed Queen, who is struggling relative to MDJ's current pace. Ricky Maru right behind him, and ARL just the same kind of distance as well in 9th. So Speed Queen leading a bit of a train at the moment. She's got a gap of 1.7 seconds in front, and then it's maybe 1.7 seconds for the next 6 places behind.
Yeah, nice little DRS train forming. This is all helping Ryan just keeping that top 5 place at the moment. Something we do have to bear in mind, though, is maybe watching out for Ryan near the end of this race. If he can stick sort of close to Ghost, then he may have a chance when the crossover period comes near the end. But
right,
I think if Ghost continues to pull that gap out to like maybe 3-4 seconds, that's going to be very difficult for Ryan. Cameron, again, just almost pushing Nick through the corner.
He did get close that time, didn't he? As Nick chose the middle of the road to take his position. Not exactly a weave, but not exactly a non-defence either. As MDJ closes right on the back of the Alpine of Speed Queen, who hogs that middle of the road line herself. Just a few seconds later, MDJ can't find a way through. And if you choose that middle of the middle lane here, really around Zandvoort, there's very little opportunity to get through. So
it's very oh, that's a Ryan in the wall.
That is the Mercedes of Ryan, who has lost the hard tyre shod car down to 12th position, sadly, and has managed to get the car out of the gravel, I think. Is he back running? He is. Let's just see. Let's have a look at his car.
No front wing.
No front wing at all. But
I'll tell you what, yep. I am amazed that car is still got all 4 corners on it in that corner. If he's hit the wall, he's got, granted, he's in 13th now, but he'll definitely consider himself lucky that he's still in this race, because that corner you don't normally get to drive away and tell the tale of it.
Another fastest final sector there for Cameron Searle, who closed within 0.2 of a second going into Tarzan, but it's just too far away. MDJ making the move though on Speed Queen down into that Tarzan corner, and say a few seconds later up to 5th then, and has managed to break that impenetrable wall so far from Speed Queen. He spent every bit of his battery doing so, but he can afford to try and bed down now and recharge, at least for this next sector or two, before he's going to need to spend it, as he will be the lead of a long train this time. Ryan is in the pits. I don't know if he is fitting. He's back running again. He hasn't retired, so he's game to try and get a point or two out of tonight's proceedings. But that was absolute drama for Ryan out of nowhere as well. You blink and you miss it around this circuit, JP. There are mistakes at virtually every lap.
Yeah, it's a tricky circuit to stay consistent on, but it definitely rewards you if you are. Obviously Ryan back onto mediums. I'm surprised he hasn't gone onto the soft tyres and maybe looked to go fastest lap route at this point, because without a safety car he's unfortunately going to be finishing there.
Yeah, we've got Alpine of Owen challenging ARL here, but he's run out of ERS too, and ARL with the DRS in the train in front of him has managed to hang on. So it's working so far, that defence, but ARL will be greedy for more than 8th place, I think, tonight. He'll be hoping for a better finishing result, but he's going to have to start moving forward. There are only 8 laps plus the one they're on to go. Speed Queen in 6th is hanging on to the back of MDJ. Everybody, of course, now on the medium tyres as Ryan has pitted. I wonder if he'd considered trying a set of softs, but he may not have a spare set left. As Nick Houston then leads Cameron Searle by 0.3 of a second, who himself has a gap of just around a half a second to Merckx. Ghost back very much on his own in 4th position. We'll be hoping for drama in front of him, but he may have to settle for 4th at the moment. So a rare sight of Ghost not on the podium, as his 2 main championship rivals, Cameron and Nick, will vie for this first place tonight.
Yeah, once again, Cameron gets close to Nick within a couple of tenths, but no closer than that. And this is got to be frustrating for Cameron. He's really going to want to try and get past sooner unless the only thing I can think of with Cameron is he sizing Nick up for a move later in the race, maybe with a bit of ERS advantage. Because as we know, Nick does tend to use ERS a little bit more than most people.
He does. We'll have a quick visual check on that. I won't make comment so much, but currently I can see how much Cameron has got versus how much Nick has got, and those of you watching live with us will know the situation from what I've just displayed on screen. So we know who the advantage lies with at this stage. Let's see. No penalties on board either on the cars, so that's very impressive at this stage of proceedings around Zandvoort. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave telemetry on. Let's play dangerously and suffer the ire of the admins and league runners if they're watching later. But Cameron going to that middle lane again, no way through, but just trying to indicate to Nick that he's not going anywhere. He's still on his tail, and the move may come now. Speed Queen is suffering here, has drained her battery, and Ricky Maru gets through into that 6th place. Speed Queen, unfortunately, heading down the order at this stage. She does usually keep her tyres really well fit for the end of the session, so for the end of the stints, so maybe she knows something that the drivers around her don't know in terms of tyre deg and life. But at this point she's lost 2 places in about 4 or 5 laps, down to 7th for Speed Queen. ARL in 8th as well, would be hoping for more out of the race than is currently sitting in that 8th place. Cameron then closing into the Audi S. Got a brilliant helicopter shot on the stream at the moment, which is I just wish we had the ability to look at this camera angle whenever we chose, but you can see he's living with Nick on the way into Kumho, the penultimate corner. But as they go through Arie Luijendijk, Nick's setup seems to be that he's faster through the next corner, but Cameron is well within range here, gets almost close to lunge range but doesn't quite go for it. He's definitely getting closer though, JP, and I wonder, is that notice served?
I think the notice was served about 5 laps ago by Cameron. It's always been that. I mean, Cameron's going to be able to close his eyes and draw the rear end of that Alfa Romeo with his eyes shut, the way it's going. A
very similar sentiment from Darrell in the chat as well. He's feeling exactly the same thing.
But I think what we do need to mention Merckx here. He has stayed with the top 2. I mean, we talk about Nick and Cameron pretty much all race long, pretty much every race when they're battling, but I think it's quite impressive that Merckx managed to stick with them here, which has meant that Cameron's been unable to go for a potentially risky move, because he knows if he goes for that risky move it doesn't pay off. Merckx is there to pick up the pieces, so he doesn't have that safety net.
He doesn't. He has got the ability to deploy some battery, though. He's spending a little bit, although you are a little bit limited coming out of the final corner, JP, as to just how much of an effect you can make. He's closing. He needs to maybe go for 1 or 2 attempts, I think, to make Nick spend that ERS, that his remaining battery. and then be able to go for his properly serious move, as it were. He's got to make Nick start to defend all over the circuit, I think, just to spend that battery.
Yeah, Owen's gone round at the tyres on a hairpin. He was looking at the, and there goes the front wing as he's Austin Powers the car.
Yes, that's a very difficult turning circle to try and achieve. He's reversing on the grass. He's going to try to drive forward, and that is a safety car right at the end of the race. Disqualified from the session is Owen. Not much he could do there to actually get. I saw when he engaged reverse gear, I was worried that we were going to get a situation like that. But there is your safety car, as JP rightly predicted. But does that neutralise the race now, as and neutralise Cameron's advantage on the ERS?
It will neutralise it because everyone's going to have 100%. The question is, will any of the top three risk coming in for some soft tyres and trying to have the advantage that way?
Look at the gap that
Nick's
Cameron
lost
and Merckx have got back to Ghost. They've got a decent gap here. Merckx is going to go. Oh, and Nick, a very late dive down into the pit lane. He left it to the very last second. Ghost, his decision time. Does he go for track position? He is sticking with track position. So a lot of work to do. This is absolutely critical then for Nick. That no one else decides to come into the pits at this late stage. He is okay. He is returning to the race in P3, but he gave up the lead, and now, crucially, he's going to have to pass Ghost and Cameron in the final 2 laps of the race to reclaim that top position. Was that a mistake?
I think only time will tell. It depends how long this safety car's out for and how many opportunities they're going to get here.
I believe we will get. We should get the final 2 laps at very least. I don't think the safety car can run in the final 2 laps, but that doesn't give a lot of opportunity here to Nick. He is on fresh softs, but Ghost is in between him and Cameron Searle, and it's just fascinating to me how frequently this season Ghost has been hovering around 4th or 5th and has managed to nab a podium at the end. I wonder if it's still on here.
I think it is still on. I mean, you got to remember, 15 lap old mediums to fresh softs. That's a very big traction difference.
Yeah, and a very interesting point being raised here. Ivan and Daryl commenting that Nick crossed the white line on the entry into the pits. Now, that should, I think, suffer a penalty. Am I right?
It very much depends on the game. I know the stewards have some way of discretion as well, but it was a very, very late dive, and you could tell it was reactive to Cameron. I think he looked behind, spotted Cameron. I actually wondered if Nick possibly sold Cameron the dummy. You know, Nick, he's staying out. As soon as Cameron looked committed, Nick then swooped into the pits to pick up the tyres. So I wonder if that was the plan from Nick, was always to have possibly not quite that late a dive into the pits, but definitely a late enough one to not enable Cameron to get in.
Yeah, but going over not only the white line but also the painted pink and turquoise Miami type colours on the over the grid hatchings on the way through into the pit lane. Daryl saying that he thinks it's just a reprimand from the stewards to make that move, but it looked pretty dangerous. Of course, our live viewers during this moment have got the opportunity to go back and freeze frame and check exactly that how late that move was, and they can comment as to what they think the stewards will decide to do after the race if there is an appeal. It depends how everyone's feeling. Of course, if Cameron holds on to first, he may not care. But the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. We will get 2 racing laps to finish this one. Cameron Ghost on their 16-lap-old mediums versus Nick on brand new softs. MDJ on those mediums, and then Merckx on new softs. We've got a big run of drivers on those soft tyres. ARL interestingly stayed out. Everybody else came in with the exception of Ricky Marut. So let's see. So yeah, people saying when they've watched it back that it was a bit of a dangerous move, confirming that he crossed the line. I mean, I was in no doubt whether he crossed that line. It's just a matter of whether there's appeal. But let's go green as Cameron, straight out of the final corner, will be able to dispatch Ghost pretty quickly. Ghost is spending away that extra ERS that he's almost certain to have, as Nick goes a long way around Tarzan. Will Ghost hold on? He's trying his absolute damnedest, but there's a spin behind. Is that Cameron? No, it's MDJ in the AlphaTauri spinning behind, and Merckx as well, who's thrown away a potential podium. Ghost then should be able to hang on there, but he just had a massive sideways step coming out of Hugenholtz, as we've got a 5-second penalty on the board for Merckx for corner cutting as he recovers the car. Nick then is going for to try and get this race back.
Yeah, so good stuff from Nick. Unfortunately, Merckx and MDJ, I believe, came together, so both of them spun out of the Tarzan hairpin. But this is an interesting battle now, and it's Cameron Searle versus Nick Jewston, mediums versus hards, and 1 lap to go. This is a 1-lap shootout now between these two.
Yep.
No DRS.
Crucially, Cameron held on to a lot more ERS than Cameron did, so he'll have some to defend with here. He's going to have to spend away long way down the start-finish straight. This could be Nick's last possible last major attempt, and he's not close enough to make the move. They've already gapped Ghost by nearly 3 seconds on that first lap after the safety car. The rest of the runners and riders, ARL Speed Queen, Martin and Reshka, line astern, but no major moves. Let's focus on the battle for the lead then, as Nick is looking to find a way past or a way to stay with Cameron and go into the final corner. But Cameron has held on to 30% battery versus less than 10% on Nick Jewston's car.
Speed Queen down the inside of ARL. That's at turn 7. That's a lovely move for Speed Queen up to P4.
Fabulous.
1 second behind Ghost is going to be tricky to get, but she is closing that gap to Ghost. I'm not quite sure she'll be able to close it enough to get that opportunity at the end for the podium.
Fabulous moves from both Speed Queen and strategic call from ARL to stay out, but it's not working. We've got a yellow flag from Mercedes. That's Ryan, I think, having problems at the tail of the field, but as they head into the final 2 corners, it is Cameron 4 tenths to the good ahead of Nick Jewston. Will Cameron hold on? They're spending their battery, they're spending everything available to them, but Cameron will win the race from Nick Jewston by half a second. Tremendous one, and it's almost a photo finish behind them. It's Speed Queen, ARL and Martin. Martin just 32 thousandths of a second behind ARL, with Reshka coming round to secure the 7th place, I think. But it is all about, it's Cameron and Nick. Cameron prospered in the end, and Nick, that gamble into the pit lane just didn't quite work out for him. But wow, tremendous stuff. Ghost rescues a podium out of nowhere, and Martin gets driver of the day from the game. Wow, absolute drama at the end, JP. But Cameron held on, and it just didn't quite work for Nick in the end.
Yeah, you feel that Nick had the confidence there to pull that one off, and you have to give it to Cameron to defend off that. Obviously, the soft tyres warm up quicker. They have a lot more traction, especially when they're that much younger. But Cameron kept his nerve, used his ERS wisely, and ultimately, I think the biggest thing about that is the fact that Ghost was between them on the restart. Obviously, Cameron was able to get a little bit of a gap right at the start there of that restart.
Absolutely. So our 3 main championship contenders, I think we can count Cameron in among those contenders now, will finish in the top 3. We have 4 races to go in our championship, and it's all to play for. Nick got the fastest lap as well, JP, but take us through that final standings.
So, provisional results for the Dutch Grand Prix here in Tier 1. It is Cameron Searle who takes the victory from Nick Jewston by just under half a second. Ghost takes another podium to add to his record. 3rd place for him. Speed Queen in 4th place. ARL comes home in 5th with Martin 6th, top T2 driver. Reshka 7th, LTB in 8th, Ricky Maru in 9th, MDJ rounds out the top 10. Ryan finishes 11th, and below we have Merckx, Jasper, Jeremy, Lewis, and Ennis and Owen. Just kind of Owen quickly. They were not finished. Owen got disqualified very harshly, in my opinion, for recovering from a spin, and he got disqualified for blocking the pit lane exit, even though he was just about to spin around and get going again.
Yeah, that was highly unfortunate, and really very unfair, very difficult for him. We know that our reigning champion Ghost knows his way to the press conference. We will give an opportunity, of course, to our lead two drivers tonight to comment ahead of him if they can find their way in. I know Cameron has talked with us before. I think Nick hasn't Nick's. We have spoken to Nick before, so I think Nick will hopefully come in and talk to us. We'd love to talk to him about that pitting decision and whether he regrets it. Now, at this point, some great comments in the driver room. Here is Nick, in fact. Let's just hang on just a second then for Cameron as we ask our drivers just to recheck their party audio settings are set to share. JP, anything while we wait for Cameron, anything from the driver chat that catches your eye? I see some good sporting comments as well as other things.
Yeah, it looks very much like everyone, respectful of everyone else's kind of racecraft and result in the end of that. So yeah, just
tremendous. Well, we do have all three drivers in our press conference, so we will get first billing, of course, to our winner tonight. Cameron, so what a fabulous race overall. You saved enough battery in the end to hold off Nick. It was either going to be saving the battery for an attempt, but in the end, Nick gave you that track position, and then it was roles reversed. You had to defend right to the very death.
Yeah. Firstly, just check you can hear me.
I can.
Perfect. Sorry, new headphones this time. Yeah, no, Nick had the pace to win this week. I spent the whole race just towing myself along in his DRS. I was watching my telemetry, which probably once again not a good idea. I think I had about half a percent better tyre wear each lap. But yeah, no, certainly in that second stint, he just bolted.
Yeah.
Me and Merck, we were doing our best to stay in, and then just it was. At the end, it was almost a box opposite to him.
Right.
At the end.
But he did make a late call to go into the pits.
Very late, yeah. Don't worry. As you can probably tell, I'm not too bothered by it.
Yes. That's what I thought. If you do prosper, you won't be too concerned. Yeah. But yeah, that must have been a really tough race for you.
Yeah. No. What I was more concerned with there. I don't know if it was deliberate, but it was a little cheeky, just slowing down so Ghost was within our pit range. Our delta hit 2 seconds at the final corner, so I think probably trying to discourage me from doing it as well.
So a little bit of possible sort of strategic gamesmanship going into the pits, yes, exactly. Right?
No, all fun and games, no, but.
Well, it worked out well, and you've managed to secure a win. You must be pleased to get back into that championship hunt now.
I think I'm a long way from back in it, but it's nice to. Yeah, no, it is nice to be.
Yeah, I know you had an absolute nightmare last week, so good to get back on the winners rostrum.
Exactly, yeah.
Congratulations, Cameron. Any comment from JP? Any questions for you? We did have a question on what wings are you running. You can give the game away or not as you see fit.
Yeah, no, I think it was just a little lower because I was noticing Nick's exits, especially out of turn 4 and the final corner, just that little bit better. He was gaining about a tenth on the exit, and I'd slowly get it back.
Yep.
With slipstream and wings, but no, it was fairly even the whole race.
I think so. JP, anything?
Yeah, obviously, congratulations, Cameron. Obviously, third victory this season and fifth podium. Obviously, you probably should have had a fair few more podiums than that this season. But obviously, at the end there, do you feel, obviously with the safety car restart, do you feel having Ghost between you and Nick and such like, was that the bit that helped you there keep the win? Because obviously Nick, you kind of had a little bit of a gap after turn 1 on the restart because obviously Nick had to deal with Ghost first. Do you feel if Nick was behind you directly, the result would have been different in this case?
I'm not too sure. No, I think what made the difference because I've just had Ruddo sort of pop up. I think Nick he said Nick used a lot of his ERS trying to get past, and I think that was the difference. Not necessarily the time back, 'cause he was straight back on me, but I think he was a bit lower on the ERS after that.
Well, great stuff. Welcome back to the winner's step, Cameron, and we'll go on to talk to Nick next. Nick, congratulations on a successful podium, but I imagine you're sort of feeling like that one got away from you at the end.
Yeah, yeah, true. But in the end, I also felt that I may have lost the lead in the normal stint, the mediums, because
Right.
I was all using all of my battery to keep him behind. I don't know how much battery he had until the safety car, but I was very scared that on the last lap he would take me, and then the safety car came out. But yeah, I knew that he did the opposite of me, so I just had to choose one of two. But I thought the softs were the best option. But I think I shouldn't have done it because they're old softs, which
okay.
like, the first lap I already felt that they're a lot worse than like the first corner, because there I could easily go around the outside of Ghost. But maybe therefore I shouldn't have done it. Only if I had had new softs, but yeah, it was difficult. I mean, it was very difficult to get by because he could just use all of his ERS in 2 laps.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if the other decision may have, I don't know. If he was behind me with new softs, I may also have lost. So I'm not too sad about it. I still got the fast lap, so it's only a 2-point loss.
True,
So,
absolutely. We were keeping
yeah.
an eye, and he always had that ERS profit over you, so he did always have the ability to jump. So when you watch it back, you'll think, well, you made the best decision in the end. But JP, any questions there for Nick?
Yeah, obviously you say you made pits because you thought the softs were the best option. I mean, you went in very, very late on that pit stop.
I know.
I mean, how was that deliberate to be that late to make sure that Cameron couldn't follow you in, so you were definitely on differing strategy?
Yeah, it was actually to see if Cameron wanted to go for it, but I think I went a little bit too late. But I don't know. And that 2-second gap wasn't actually meant to happen. I was just watching where everybody was, and then I saw that I had a 2-second deficit, which I really didn't want to do because I almost came behind another AlphaTauri, I think. So that wasn't really helpful. But no, that wasn't meant to be. But the late call, that was on purpose to see what the others would do. But I knew that Cameron would do the opposite of me. That was pretty certain. I mean, yeah, I didn't know a situation where you wouldn't do that.
Well, congratulations on a podium in the end. Anyway, I think you will extend your lead in the championship over Ghost, who may now start feeling Cameron breathing down his neck. So congratulations for a good point haul and for fastest lap as well, and for giving us a fantastic evening's entertainment. But let's talk to Ghost, our reigning season 15 champion. Ghost, you've done it again. You've managed to get yourself on that podium.
I didn't really deserve it, but here I am. I mean, it's good to. I'm glad Cameron won. Never thought I'd say that. Yeah, I mean, it's not good for the constructors, but it's good for the drivers. So it's sort of win-lose either way, really.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did the best I could. I don't really know how they were so much faster than me in race pace. I was losing solid three, maybe 4/10 a lap, and I was not that far behind in quali. So I don't know what happened. And even Merckx was like 100th ahead of me in quali, and he was about 2 or 3 tenths faster than me in the race. So I don't know why I was so slow in the race, but compared to them, obviously. So it ended up being very lonely for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to come away with third, and still waiting for that bit of bad luck for Nick, but it's not coming yet.
Well, we saw Cameron's disconnection curse pass on to Clarkson tonight, so maybe it's Nick's turn in the next 4 races. We've got 4 to go. What do you fancy your chances to finish this one up in the top step?
Almost nil. Like I said, I need him to crash. That's literally it. There's no other way that I win the title, because he's faster than me at every single track and significantly faster. So it's not like I can sort of make a rash dive anywhere and just take a position and do something. He's just so much faster than me. There's absolutely nothing I can do. So. Yeah, I mean, just gonna have to keep doing my best and hope for some luck. It hasn't come yet, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, the safety car at the end, I thought maybe I can hold him back for a little bit, and then, yeah, he got past me at turn one, which,
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I sort of expected it, but I was thinking maybe I can sort of hold him up for a couple of corners and give Cameron an easier time. At least him being behind me helped a little bit,
Sure.
if anything. Yeah, I mean, had a couple of bits of bad luck with a bit of desync at the safety car restart, and also a desync at the other safety car restart at turn whatever it is, turn 4, which made me nearly spin into the wall, but kept it together.
Yeah, I did see a big snap, I think, on board with you at that point. So
Yeah, the screen
see...
froze for about a tenth of a second, and it was nearly enough for me to go in the wall.
Wow.
So just kept it together.
Well, congrats on the podium. Last quick question then, JP.
Yeah, I mean, well done, Ghost. Your 7th podium this season, and I worked out your 21st in the last 2 seasons so far, which is quite impressive. Obviously, you say the pace of those in front of you were a bit too much. I mean, but I think your biggest kind of threat, really, especially on one of the restarts, was Ryan. Even though he was on the hard tyres, he managed to get the jump on you on that restart, which kind of cost you a little bit of time early on in that restart period before you managed to actually get back past him.
Yeah, I don't want to be the sort of person who says, "Oh, it was desync. It wasn't my fault." But that genuinely wasn't my fault. On the run to turn 1, I just teleported back 3/10, so there was nothing I could do.
Wow.
So yeah, that was very annoying. But I think even if I'd stayed ahead of him, I wouldn't have really had a chance to go for a move. And as soon as it's past turn 1, they would have just sped off anyway. So I don't think it would have changed too much. But it was very annoying at the time. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to our podium. Cameron still the winner, Nick bringing it home in 2nd, and to Ghost in 3rd position. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed with us right to the end, but anyone who's joined us through live or watching on demand later on. You can always go ahead and press the like button. If you enjoyed tonight's race, make sure you tune in to tomorrow's realistic performance race, but set a date in your diary for our next race, race number 12 in the championship of 15. So 4 to go in the run into the final at this season 16 here at the top tier of Invictus Racing League. But from everyone here on the channel and in the background, thank you for watching, and we will all catch you on the next race day.